Chapter 7 of a Strange Disappearance. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Strange Disappearance by Anna Katharine Green. Chapter 7. The House at the Granby Crossroads. Why Mr. Blake should take a journey at all at this time, and why of all places in the world he should choose such an insignificant town as Putney for his destination, was of course the mystery upon which I brooded during the entire distance. But when somewhere near 5 in the afternoon I stepped from the cars on to the platform at Putney station, only to hear Mr. Blake making inquiries in regard to a certain stage running between that town and a still smaller village further east, I own I was not only surprised but well nigh nonplussed, especially as he seemed greatly disappointed to hear that it only ran once a day, and then for an earlier train in the morning. "You will have to wait till tomorrow, I fear," said the ticket agent, "unless the landlord of the hotel down yonder can harness you up a team. There is a funeral out west today and—" I did not wait to hear more, but hurried down to the hotel he had pointed out, and hunting up the landlord, inquired if for love or money he could get me any sort of a conveyance for Melville that afternoon. He assured me it would be impossible, the livery stable as well as his own being entirely empty. "Such a thing don't happen here once in 5 years," said he to me. But the old codger who is dead, though a queer dick, was a noted personage in these parts, and not a man, woman or child, who could find a horse, mule or donkey, but what availed himself of the privilege. Even the doctor's spavined mare was pressed into service, though she halts on one leg and stops to get her breath half a dozen times in going up one short hill. "You will have to wait for the stage, sir." "But I am in a hurry," said I as I saw Mr. Blake enter. "I have business in Melville tonight, and I would pay anything in reason to get there." But the landlord only shook his head, and drawing back with an air of an abused man, I took up my stand in the doorway, where I could hear the same colloquy entered into with Mr. Blake, with the same unsatisfactory termination. He did not take it quite as calmly as I did, though he was of too reserved a nature to display much emotion over anything. The prospect of a long tedious evening spent in a country hotel seemed almost unendurable to him, but he finally succumbed to the force of circumstances, as indeed he seemed obliged to do, and partaking of such refreshment as the rather poorly managed hotel afforded, retired without ceremony to his room, from which he did not emerge again till next morning. In all this he had somehow managed not to give his name, and by means of some inquiries I succeeded in making that evening I found his person was unknown in the town. By a little management I secured the next room to his, by which arrangement I succeeded in passing a sleepless night, Mr. Blake spending most of the wee small hours in pacing the floor of his room with an unremitting regularity that had anything but a soothing effect upon my nerves. Early the next morning we took the stage, he sitting on the back seat, and I in front with the driver. There were other passengers, but I noticed he never spoke to any of them, nor through all the long drive did he once look up from the corner where he had ensconced himself. It was 12 o'clock when we reached the end of the route, a small town of somewhat less than the usual pretensions of mountain villages, so insignificant indeed that I found it more and more difficult to imagine what the wealthy ex-congressman could find in such a spot as this, to make amends for a journey of such length and discomfort, when to my increasing wonder I heard him give orders for a horse to be saddled and brought round to the inn door directly after dinner. This was a move I had not expected, and it threw me a little aback, for although I had thus far managed to hold myself so aloof from Mr. Blake, even while keeping him under my eye, that no suspicion of my interest in his movements had as yet been awakened. How could I thus for the third time follow his order with one precisely similar, without attracting an attention that would be fatal to my plans? Yet to let him ride off alone now would be to drop the trail at the very moment the scent became of importance. The landlord, a bustling, wiry little man, all nervousness and questions, unwittingly helped me at this crisis. "Are you going on to Perry, sir?" inquired he of that gentleman. "I have been expecting a man along these 3 days bound for Perry." "I am that man," I broke in, stepping forward with some appearance of asperity, "and I hope you won't keep me waiting. A horse as soon as dinner is over, do you hear? I am 2 days late now, and won't stand any nonsense." And to escape the questions sure to follow, I strode into the dining room with a half fierce, half sullen countenance, that effectually precluded all advances. During the meal, I saw Mr. Blake's eye roam more than once towards my face, but I did not return his gaze, or notice him in any way. Hurrying through my dinner, and mounting the first horse brought around, as if time were my only consideration. But once on the road I took the first opportunity to draw rein and wait, suddenly remembering that I had not heard Mr. Blake give any intimation of the direction he intended taking. A few minutes revealed to me his elegant form well mounted and showing to perfection in his closely buttoned coat, slowly approaching up the road. Taking advantage of a rise in the ground, I lingered till he was almost upon me, when I cantered quickly on, fearing to arouse his apprehensions if I allowed him to pass me on a road so solitary as that which now stretched out before us, a move provocative of much embarrassment to me, as I dared not turn my head for the same reason, anxious as I was to keep him in sight. The roads dividing before me at length gave me my first opportunity to pause and look back. He was some 50 paces behind. Waiting till he came up, I bowed with the surly courtesy I thought in keeping with the character I had assumed, and asked if he knew which road led towards Perry, saying I had come off in such haste I had forgotten to inquire my way. He returned my bow, pointed towards the left-hand road, and saying, "I know this does not," calmly took it. Now here was a dilemma. If in face of this curt response I proceeded to follow him, my hand was revealed at once, yet the circumstances would admit of no other course. I determined to compromise matters by pretending to take the right-hand road till he was out of sight, when I would return and follow him swiftly upon the left. Accordingly, I reined my horse to the right, and for some 15 minutes galloped slowly away towards the north, but another 15 saw me facing the west, and riding with a force and fury of which I had not thought the old mare they had given me capable.